relies on. Oh! And he nails them both. More from Twist. Oh my God!
How I'm loving life these days.
The all-new Hyundai Kona. Seriously fun.
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavour, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
Just one round remains here in your ACER Malta GT3 Championship. It has been two drivers at the top all season long, but it comes down to one final race. It has been a contentious championship full of victories, 4-3. The winning has been between Sheldon Muscat and Adrian Manduka, but one small mistake has opened the door wide open for Sheldon Muscat here today. He knows that a strong finish here around this Imola circuit will pretty much guarantee him the title, and Adrian Manduka may just be hoping for a miracle. So, on the American holiday of Thanksgiving, who is going to be grateful for the ACER Malta GT3 Championship crown? We'll find out at the end of today's action. My name is Jake Sperry. Alongside me for the ride is Adam Reed. And Adam, we have to talk about Indianapolis 1 week ago because its shockwaves here in this championship were seismic. An issue for Adrian Manduka running into the back of Aaron De Battista, the subsequent drop of the position, the subsequent gap that opened up as he tried to make himself over to the end, and the fact that he got a 5-second time penalty coming out of that race, which did not affect his position, all indicates to me that one Adrian Manduka mistake could be the difference maker between title and not.
Jake, absolutely. We did have an incredible race around the night sky of Indianapolis. Very, very dramatic. And of course, there will be some kind of throwbacks to the mind of what happened in that race. I think Sheldon Muscat can walk away from that race very, very happy, almost a little bit of a lucky boy to be walking away with the win as well. He didn't have the strong pace at the start of the race, of course, made his own mistake, an unforced error, forced him to drop down to third behind his championship rival, but it was all down to Manduka just outbreaking himself and hitting the back there of Aaron De Baptista. I think that could really have opened up the championship to a massive extent. And of course, we're now looking at 14 points being the difference. The only thing that Sheldon Muscat needs to do really is just keep it on the circuit.
Yeah, that definitely looks to be the case. Remember, it's 30 points for a championship or a race win, so to speak. Following that, it's then 24 points for second, 19 points for third, and then the increment drops from there. There's a look at your results from last time out. 16 points for a fourth place position. So we will see all of that difference being made over the course of racing that we've got here. But that gap of 0.2 of a second, Aaron De Baptista was able to claw that gap into Sheldon Muscat in his Bentley, but was unable to get close enough to go and make that pass. John Agius there finishing in fourth, with Samuel Mifsud there in fifth position. A non-finish for Denzel Agius will be one that he won't be too happy with in this show, brought to you by GamingMalta, and of course in collaboration with Hyundai, Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and with JACAP, which sets the championship standings up as this: a 14-point margin there at the top of the standings, which means that if Adrian Manduka finishes first here today, Adam, it is as simple as finish on the podium for Sheldon Muscat, and the title is his.
Absolutely, that's kind of the way it's really going to go here. I think Muscat just needs to keep it on the way I think he's going to approach it. I think that this, in terms of the circuit, in terms of where we're going to be, Imola, of course, that final round, I think it's going to be more towards the Mercedes than the Ferrari this time around. The Bentley will love that. The Ferrari and the Mercedes, the McLaren will really work their way around the circuit. And I've noticed that the second sector, there's a lot of time to be gained and a lot of time to be lost. That's going to be a very, very crucial sector when it comes to qualifying and also the race.
This isn't an easy circuit by any stretch of the imagination. Let's get a little bit of an understanding of it, of the 20 turns or 19 turns that they will have to deal with. The likes, of course, of the Tamburello chicane, the Variante Villeneuve chicane. Of course, they got the Tosa hairpin up to Piratella, through Acqua Minerale and over to what is now known as the Curva Grassini, which used to be known as the very fearsome Variante Alta, when it used to run a 2-chicane system, with the Variante Bassa now being used just for the motos. You've got the 2 Ravazza corners as well to keep in mind. This a circuit with a lot of history and heritage, but Adrian Manduka's manufacturer, of course, being Ferrari, the track that was named in honor of the lost son of the legendary Enzo Ferrari, that being Dino Ferrari.
Absolutely, this circuit has been etched in history, and it is a special place to come to. Sometimes it may not have the greatest of memories, but of course it is always a fantastic circuit to go to. We're already into qualifying. There is your championship leader, Sheldon Muscat, looking for championship glory tonight, but he'll have to go through the qualifying phase. And of course, he had that struggle 2 rounds ago in Suzuka, where he didn't put in on lap time for the majority of the session, and flash back with putting it onto provisional pole position.
Well, he'll certainly be hoping for that. He'll be one of the first drivers over the line, looking to go out there and qualify for a representative flying lap as they head towards Tamburello. Of course, the fabled statue, which is there at Tamburello, of the legendary Ayrton Senna, with one fateful day in May 1994, etched into the minds of all racers for a time eternal, as now through the Villeneuve chicane, named after the legendary Gilles Villeneuve, his last victory in Formula Racing coming here at Imola, a corner named after him, and into that Tosa hairpin and back up the hill. It is a rather heavy elevation change circuit, one of the reasons, Adam, why this hosted the UCI Cycling World Championships back in 2020.
really interesting factor just sitting out there, a little bit away from the motor racing, a little bit less away from the four wheels and more towards the two. But yeah, Sheldon Muscat now going to Aqua Minerale, really struggling a little bit through there, but managed to get a decent exit. But I think that's really going to be a massive men to the boys kind of difference. It's really going to show off their prowess. The big cut there from Chris Gatt in the McLaren 720 GT3. I think that you're going to have to keep yourself nice and steady through that chicane, otherwise you will find yourself getting a few cut penalties and potentially ruining your own race. Adrian Manduka about to head down the hill towards Rivazza, and he's on the brakes, of course, really have to try and get it slowed down. It's such a thin braking point because, of course, you can very easily overshoot it, and you can very easily go under with the way the curve kind of the way the circuit goes down the hill, and of course into a very tight braking.
Yeah, and that tight braking zone is something we're going to be seeing lots and lots. These drivers know that this is one where Tamburello is going to be the prime place to get a pass done today. That long run out to the second Ravazza and all the way over towards Tamburello is going to be the key. Outside of that, it's basically a follow the leader style circuit. Very technical. You have to fight up the hill for everything that you've got. And a 41.4 is the best time to beat of the Project Avercio Ferrari, being piloted by your championship contender, Adrian Manduka Karabot, who was not over at Indianapolis last time out, looking to try and put himself in the mix. And here's the issue that they're going to run into here at Project Avercio. It's the fact that, of course, you've got drivers here like Aaron De Battista, you've got drivers here like Ryan Karabot, you've got Adrian Manduka who wants it, but the question is, you're going to need one of, surely, the Agius brothers to jump in, because in a championship situation like this, you'd surely think that De Battista would move aside for a driver like Sheldon Muscat if the scenario required it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you got to try and get one of the Agiuses in. It looks like Angelo Agius is in for the Ford Mustang team, as he is currently in that number 52. I hasn't set up a representative that time just yet, as Karabot goes over for P3, still looking some more time. 4/10 of a second off Manduka isn't too bad. The Project Aversios are looking pretty strong off the start here. As Denzel Agius goes third as well. Oh, there's some strong times in there. And I think Adrian Manduka just put in, that Sheldon Muscat just putting himself up into first place.
Yeah, by nearly 4/10 of a second, a 1:41 flat. Sheldon is not here to mess around. He's got himself the best time possible out there on the board, as you can see, descending down the hill in towards Aqua Minerale here. It's one of the toughest corners in the world of motorsport. You've got to turn and brake at the same time to make sure that you get the car slowed down. It's a tight right-hander, and then you've got to chase it back up the hill. One of the most amazing series of complexes there as they deal with the curve of Grassini, of course, and then over towards the Ravazzas and this long run. And this is one of the things about this Imola circuit. There's never truly a straight braking zone anywhere on this track. Everywhere you've got to be very much worried about car placement. Where is my car in comparison to where I need to hit the brakes? It is a wonderfully designed track.
Absolutely, I think you're right on that one. You've very much got to be very aware of where you're placing the car. Of course, you've got to make sure you're maximising the braking as much as you possibly. You see Denzel Agius heading into the first sequence of corners. Yeah, he's done exactly that, hopping over the seat of the sausage curbs there on the inside of each corner, really going flat here towards the Villeneuve chicane, where you take more curves. It's not like the usual single seaters, because so Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula Regional, F4 all circulate around here, so they're very much staying off those curves. But with these GT3 cars, they're able to use them, and we'll really see a lot of curb usage in these big old chunky cars.
You will see that curb usage, and you'll see how important it is to be aggressive with the curbs around this circuit. There's a lot of anti-cut, though, around, so you've got to be very alert to it. Ryan Karabot, fastest by 0.003 of a second up at the top. So the apple cart starting to get slightly rocked here at Imola. De Battista finds himself as third quickest. Manduca currently in fourth, and then Angelo Agius there in fifth position. As things stand, top 5 split by 0.7 of a second, with Denzel Agius at 1 second back. Darryl Martinelli follows Jamie Smith with Samuel Mifsud in ninth, and Gat there in 10th. Off the road down at Acqua Minerale goes Sheldon Muscat. He'll take a tow back to the pits, reset the car, and say, you know what, I'm going to get some fresh tyres, and I'm going to go out again. We follow Aaron De Battista up at the top of the hill into the very difficult 90-degree left of Piratella. It plateaus on the braking zone, and then you drop it down the hill, so very difficult to get it correct up there.
It is very, very difficult. I think, as you say, the most difficult corner on the circuit is that Acqua Minerale. You're really aiming to be as straight on the brake as possible. Very much got to just keep it almost pointing as if you're going off the track. Use a little bit of curve on the left-hand side, and then you've got to get it rotated using the curve. Because of course, you are in a GT3 car, you are able to do that. And just straight line it. It is so complex, and you've just got to do it in one big great movement, and then of course that's really how the gist of getting it right. But it's very difficult to exercise it and then put it into perfection, put it in practice, and then remember you've got to do that for 45 minutes straight off the race without making a singular mistake. They'll probably be playing around with traction 1 and traction 2, maybe a little bit of off for some of the more flatter sections as well. Of course, ABS are going to be on these cars. The anti-brake system will be into effect, so they won't be locking up as much. You see that John Agius, in fact, in the
Mustang.
Ford, actually, yeah, it's the Ford Mustang, just taking a little trip through the gravel there at this moment in time, but he's still working his way up the hill and on towards the top hill of Piratella. But then you've got chicane section where, of course, we talk about more curbing as well, and that can very much send you into an off-track situation if you're a bit too aggressive over them.
Yeah, and you can definitely get the sense that John Agius here is trying to find every way to save some time here, Adam, because Argon has gone the traditional blue and orange Mustang livery that we've seen. He stripped it down to purely, I would say, a black specker car, and that basically means he's trying to save the weight on the paint.
It does seem like that's the way it's gone for the Ford Mustang. It's you kind of miss the more colourful livery of the orange, the white and the blue, but it's nice. It kind of feels like a test spec. It feels like maybe an Evo version, but of course this is ACC, and I don't think there'll be an Evo version coming very soon. But it's still nice to see the Ford Mustang out there. Of course, it's still relatively new to the game, and of course being put into practice in this championship, and it's been an absolute joy to see and to hear as well. But Denzel Agius and the other McLarens, the other Agius, really working his way through Acqua Minerale. Not too bad through there, just took a little bit more on the exit than I think he'd like to. What about this chicane here on the brakes just before the 100-meter board, get the car slowed down, using a lot of curve there, and I think that's exactly why you can handle it. And I think, of course, you've got to just straight line it as much as you possibly can. 8.5 minutes to go. Where will Denzel Agius put that McLaren? 5th at the moment. Can he make it any higher?
Well, he'd love to jump up a bit more. Manduca's pulled the gap down to half a second to his teammate Ryan Carabot, but key here is that Ryan Carabot's now got 0.2 of a second worth of margin. Denzel Agius then with the short run over towards the line, hoping that he's going to improve, and he puts a 41.2 down there with that lap time. So he does. He moves to 0.02 of a second behind Adrian Manduca, who is going to be under a bit of pressure here in qualifying because he wants to be the one in P1, not the one in P4. De Battista working his way towards the Tosa hairpin here, and it's one of the toughest exits, the most underrated exits in the world of motorsport, because it's flat pretty much entirely through the corner until you reach the exit where you've got to climb the hill. That's why you see so many drivers, Adam, really have that looping spin towards the inside, and that's what makes Tosa such an underrated corner.
It is very, very difficult. Of course, it's very easy, especially if you're a T-seat off. You got that very high chance of spinning it around. You might feel a little bit of lag from the car before then it spins up the wheels and unfortunately around. So you want to use maybe one or two through there. So that's one where you definitely have the TC into effect. Aaron De Baptista skipping and hopping across the chicane like a kangaroo, and he'll power his way down towards Piratella. I'd love to ride on board with that McLaren just to see what it's like from the driver's view, to see what it's going down into the hill, getting on those brake pedals, trying to hit that apex. He's done wonderfully there. He used all of the exit before slowing it back down and using a more exit from the second half of the Piratella corner, and now the short run down to the line. He'll cross the timing beam. Where will he go? Third at this moment in time, and it looks like 41-1. So a couple, maybe a tenth off there in that time around, but he's still got a bit of time, but not a lot left.
Yeah, he did well there through the two Ravazza corners and was certainly hoping that he was going to get himself in the best place possible. But we know now that with that lap, how much he's having to attack. He knows how much more that he's got to do to try and jump up 0.4 of a second. Sheldon Muscat out there on circuit currently in the number 14, moving out of Tamburello and the short shoot run over towards the Villeneuve chicane. Very much an inviting entry, but you've got to get it slowed down there. You can see how much he was actually pitching the car through the middle of the corner to the back, being very happy to step out there ever so slightly through the second part of Villeneuve, and then back up the hill here from Tosa over towards Piratella corner here. This lovely plateaued section of track, trying to get the big Bentley there stopped on a dime and turning through the corner again, getting quite, I would say, wiggly over the top of the curbs here. He's got a car that seems very loose and pliable to his hands.
It does seem that car is a little bit moving all over the place at this moment in time. Very aggressive into the first part of that chicane and really having to try and get all the exit there. I think there may be an improvement. It does seem to be nice in terms of qualifying pace, but when he pushes the limit a bit too hard, that's when we start to see the rear start to complain. We start to see the body roll and a lot of movement from that Bentley as he turns his way through that final corner and tries to accelerate all the way down the main straight. I think this is where we're going to be seeing that Bentley really coming into effect as he heads his way over the timing beam.
Well, now they're trying to get himself there further forward, and you can see how close he came, just 0.5 of a second off of Ryan Carabot, who seems like he is going to do everything in his power to stick a thorn in the side to get Manduka up forward in this championships. There is Samuel Mifsud out there on track in 8th position. It's nice to see him out there, the kind fox himself. He often has quite a few of his fans out here watching, and with 4 minutes to go in qualifying, he would love to jump up in what has been the closest qualifying this season, with the top 7 drivers split by 0.8 of a second. He'd love to be the 8th driver within a second, and he'd need just 1.5 tenths to improve it. Up the hill then and over towards the right and left here. That, of course, is being the run of the Curva Grassini, named after the famous local motorbike rider, of course, Mr. Grassini. Now down the hill over towards Ravazza. We will see whether that time is going to put itself into play or otherwise here with 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. So finding that chance, that opportunity to really unlock and get what's needed. Adam Samuel Mifsud heading over towards the line, and we'll see whether this is going to be improvement or not. And over the line to 42.5, he wasn't close.
Yeah, not close whatsoever. Still quite a bit off there, but Mifs is still looking to learn in that Ferrari. I think that he's still looking to try and potentially move up the grid, get a little bit closer, but of course it's very, very difficult. There's a great variety of drivers here that a lot of them have had the game for quite a while, and some of them are still using their the struggles, and sometimes there's been other drivers in here that have come from single seaters, more succeeded than some haven't. So it's a really, really interesting variety. We currently watch Aaron De Baptista heading over the top and then diving back down the hill toward that very tricky Acqua Minerale section. 2 minutes 15 to go, and he needs to get a lap together soon. He's down there in P4. Carabot from Muscat, from Manduca from De Baptista, all separated by less than half a second in towards Chicane. You see the nose dipping down as he steps onto the brakes, and you can really sense the car is in a nice field. That McLaren really does look strong around here, and that's why I think it could be good for the race later on. Watch out for those McLarens.
Yeah, the McLarens could be good here, and De Baptista might be one of them. Ryan Carabot has moved half a tenth of a second faster. Manduca from 4th position has jumped De Baptista and has moved to 3rd with an improvement of nearly 4/10 of a second. De Baptista needs 3/10 just to move on up and improve more and go fastest by nearly 3/10 of a second. Aaron De Baptista finds a lightning bolt from the blue here in Bologna, Italy. My, Adrian Manduca now needs to turn up the noisy pedal, because it seems like it's the teammates who are starting to do well 1 and 2, and then it's Muscat and Manduca 3 and 4. Who would have predicted this? As Manduca comes to the line with a minute remaining and a bit of spare change, and hopes that his time's going to be enough to improve, and a 6.72 does, and he'll jump Sheldon Muscat.
That's really crucial here, Jake. I think we're in for a really interesting race so far if it finishes off like this. But of course, we have 1 lap to go for all 4 of our top contenders. Again, like you said, who would have expected this? Certainly not me. I would not have had this on my bingo card when I woke up this morning. Denzel Adji is also heading to the line. He's grabbing a nice bit of slipstream from one of his first show teammates. Ahead, Chris Gatz also getting a double dose in that one. So we now just watch the clock here and see who will be getting that last lap in. I believe, we've had someone have a yellow in the middle sector, but we want the clock tick down now. I think this is going to be the 52 with the last car across the line. So that is going to be John Adjius there in the Ford.
Yeah, so John Adjius then, as the checker flag comes out, is the last driver to keep in mind at 0.8 of a second of Aaron De Baptista, who feels he cannot improve and is down in the pits. The first car over to the line, believe it or not, is car 93. That'll be Adrian Manduca, who will have to watch everyone behind put their times in on the board and see whether they will get the improvements. Adjius up the hill then, looking towards Piratella corner here as he takes the small kink right and then looks for that fast left-hander. It's a 1/10 of a second to move past Ryan Carabot, who he himself is down in the pits and cannot improve on his time. Manduca over the line, found a couple hundredths of a second, only the 2 of them. Nothing decisive as he made his way through. Sheldon Muscat will now make his way outer of Vatsa and over towards the line, as there is Chris Gatt, there is Sheldon Muscat. He can't improve. Now that's important, him being in 4th position. That's going to be massive when it comes to this race. So it will be down now to John Adjius, and whether he can stick a dagger in on Sheldon Muscat here. He'll need 0.4 of a second to find it there in the Mustang, and will it be a case of him rampaging away like the SMU Mustangs have been in college football recently? Here goes John Adjius. He'll make his way through now. The final small flick over towards the line he goes, and will it be enough to jump up? No, he did improve slightly though, but that will be that. It's Aaron De Baptista and Ryan Carabot, your fastest 2 up there, and who foresaw that coming?
Oh, well, certainly not us, Jake. I can definitely tell you, because the form from both the championship contenders have been absolutely excellent during qualifying, but it just seemed like Aaron De Baptista, he's had pace before in qualifying. I think 2 pole positions this season, so he has been a thorn in the side, but I didn't expect one in the final round of the season whatsoever, because you normally have those 2 championship leaders very much on the best form you can see out of the entire season. And when they really have to bring their A game, well, it looks like they brought their B game to qualifying, it seems like, but of course a whole race ahead of them, and I think this is very much going to be down to race pace. It's going to be interesting how it turns out here in Imola.
Well, that we will see on the other side of this commercial break here with Velocity Esports Racing and the ACER Malta GT3 Championship, because we do have to crown a champion. 45 minutes more of racing this season will decide that, and that will come along after this. So, we find ourselves with this, and look at what happens for the final round of the season. The heavens have opened between qualifying and the race, and so for what is one of the rare times we've seen it this season, it's a wet challenge that they will have to battle around with. And Adam, this is going to throw a huge spanner in the works in this finale, because I don't think they're expecting rain between quali and race.
No, absolutely, and of course, when it goes to rain and the heavens open, that really makes it a complete equalizer. I don't think any of these drivers have raced in the rain at all this season. None of them. So it is going to be a complete change of the table. I think for our championship contenders, if you're Adrian Manduka, you're going to be feeling more pressure now, because you've got more challenging conditions, because you're now going to have to try and get into the lead of this race. You've got to. It is a must. I think if you're Sheldon Muscat, you've just got to keep on the road here. And I think that at this moment in time, you'd want to be in the seat of Sheldon Muscat. Yes, the pre-race nerves will still be there, but it is a little bit less with the 14-point buffer you've gained before this race.
Well, with Manduka in third, he's going to have to make his way past both Ryan Carabot and Aaron De Battista and hope that Sheldon Muscat does not move. Over 45 minutes, a title to be decided, and will it be decided by drivers like Aaron De Battista running away and taking valuable points off of the likes of, say, Adrian Manduka here today? That is all in the offing here from Imola. 45 minutes on the clock, one mandatory pit stop required. Your ACER Malta GT3 Championship finale starts like this, and immediately it's about the chase down towards Tamburello to make sure that everyone has got the scrambled start that they need. De Battista unchallenged into the opening corner, top four as they are. Martinelli's made a good start there in seventh. It looks like he's maybe jumped up a position or two off of that launch, and as they rush on over now towards the Villeneuve chicane, it's exactly what the doctor ordered. Then at the front of the field, as they now tiptoe their way around over the curbs and then heading towards that next section, Manduka and Muscat side by side into Toza and up the hill. Manduka holds on for the moment.
Absolutely, he had to go on the defensive there, did Manduka, and of course Muscat is just playing with his food, just carrying that speed up the hill. Is he going to go for a move here? Potentially, there's no chance of it going into Piratella. I think that's a bit too risky, especially in the opening minutes of this race. Now down into Acqua Minerale, and of course it's going to be a bit more difficult with this on the circuit. Oh my goodness me, Manduka almost going into the back there of Manduka, the two championship contender, just carrying their momentum at this moment in time. Manduka, you've now got to try and move forward, my friend, or your dreams and hopes of championship are going to go. It's big slide.
He got very lucky. He was out on the paint on the outside there of the curve of Grassini, and that very nearly spun him out off of this circuit and into trouble. Sheldon Muscat, who sat there behind, must be loving how much he's having to work. It is De Battista from Carabot, from Manduka, from Muscat. It's then Angelo Agius there, or John Agius there in fifth position. You've got Daryl Martinelli in sixth, and it's not been a great start by Denzel Agius, who is back now in seventh position. So not necessarily easy for Adrian Manduka to rely on back there at this point. Rushing back again down in towards Tamburello. They go once more, and this is perfect for Sheldon Muscat. He knows that the difference is going to be 3 points if it stays like this. He would take the championship by double digits, by 10 points, were they to finish like this. And it is worth noting that between all of these drivers, we haven't seen it change dramatically. We haven't seen a winner other than these two in third and fourth, and Sheldon Muscat must be feeling a little bit held up at the moment, a little bit hot under the collar, and he might just try and pick the pocket up the exit here of Toza and use the grunt of the Bentley. He'll pull side by side over towards Piratella. How good's your nerve? It's one track mine as you go through there. He can't do it.
No, he can't. And I think he was really intrigued to go on the attack there. And all he's doing is just pulling Manduka away from that lead battle. Look, that gap now to 1.1 seconds between him and Ryan Carabos. And if he just continues on this trajectory, of course, that's the way he's going to stay. And he will be the GT3 champion here. Maybe a little bit wide at the chicane. It was not quite there through that section, but he's still just trying to learn here, see what the lines are. It's going to be a whole experiment in this first stint for all these drivers, just seeing where the grip is, suss out where everything is kind of placed here. Do they need to avoid this patch of circuit? And at this moment in time, I think Manduka is just going to be solely focused on just going on the push, but he also has that instinct of needing to survive. It's just a big goal of trying to combine everything and making a good meal out of it, and hopefully he won't ruin it by making his own mistake.
Well, one of the things that has to be remembered here is that they are on a different tyre. It's a wet weather tyre, so it's a little bit chunkier. It will mean that the car will potentially rest just a little bit higher with the amount of tread that's put onto the tyre so that they can clear the water from the circuit, and you can see that from the spray that is getting kicked up on the back of this machinery that we're seeing out there on circuit. So they've got that sense of they've got effectively what will feel like a really, really difficult hard compound tyre that they got to try and run into and make work. But this is also a tyre that is going to constantly be cooling and losing its temperature as you go around, which means it's going to be really important to make sure that you're running, at least on these wet tyres, on the racing line, because of course that's where there's the least amount of water, which means that's where the least amount of cooling happens.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really going to be a really, really difficult thing for these drivers to try and manage. Of course, it might come second nature to some of them, but of course it is overall a very, very difficult position to be in, no matter what car you're in, whether it's a big GT3, a single seater, or a little rental go-kart at your local kart circuit. It's always going to be a difficult one to really look to approach and of course master as well. There goes Manduka. Look at that. That gap has come down a little bit there to the rear of Carabos. Continues to try and wrestle that Ferrari through the spray. And of course, the two controversios could indeed switch position, but Carabos is going to have to be very, very careful if that is the case. And have they switched here, Jake?
Well, have they switched? Because look how close it is at the moment. Ryan Carabot, yes, has absolutely lost that second position and has fallen back. So it looks like that there has been a change of position here, and Ryan Carabot is now going to do rear gunner duties here for Adrian Manduka, allow him the opportunity to charge an attack and get to Aaron De Battista. I love this decision. It's a wise decision because look at the pace now that Manduka's got free rein to go and say, you know what, attack, I'll deal with it. Ryan's got pace for days to burn, and he will happily try and let a gap build between himself and Adrian Manduka. De Battista all of a sudden now must defend for his teammate's life, for his championship effort, because if this move does get made and he gets a little bit of grass and he tries to go into Piratella, Adrian Manduka knows that it's a championship move if he gets by the McLaren 26.
Absolutely, he knows it. It's a big, big opportunity for the points to swing in his favour for the second time ever in this championship. There was only one time, I believe, where he took control of the championship. And when was that? Oh, that's right. Back at the beginning of the championship in Zolder, we have gone over thousands of miles across the world, and we've landed back in Europe for the championship finale. And what a sight we're seeing. De Battista from Manduka, half a second between the two leaders, with Carabos in third, Muscat in fourth here. And it looks like Manduka is looking to attack for potential championship glory, and he will take it by 2 points. Big mistake there from Carabos, and that's going to allow Muscat to sign on through. Advantage Muscat in the making of this championship.
Third place is enough no matter what Adrian Manduka does about it. Ryan Carabot with an error as he slides over the curb. They're out of Ravazza too, and that hands a huge bit of momentum over to the Bentley there. And for Sheldon Muscat, that is a smile that he didn't have to do too much work to go and make that pass. The next question I have to ask there, Adam, is how on earth did Ryan Carabot save that? He was almost at 45 degrees to the track.
Oh, it was so close. I think he just had a bit too much. He was just trying to maybe fit in with this TC. Of course, these cars have some different numbers of max TC. So for some, it will be 8, some it will be 12. I think maybe up to 16, and some will also have a double layer of traction control. So you'll see on your setup adjustment, you'll have 2 layers if it starts to rain incredibly heavy and have extreme conditions. But I think just too much wheel spin there from the Ferrari. I think he was just very lucky. Maybe playing it, seeing if he can get a little bit more traction here and there. I think maybe just a number too low. Oh, and he's gone over the curbing there and off the track. What is going on here with Carabot?
Well, Ryan Carabot here, I think, is overdriving the car, knowing the importance of getting to Sheldon Muscat, and I think it really is compromising the way that he's driving at the moment. He knows he's got to be a team player, he knows he's qualified well, but wet weather driving is a very difficult skill to have, and he's finding out what happens when you push over the limits here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. There is Adrian Manduca, who finds himself now in a VMD Intercomp Sim Sports sandwich at this point, and realises that there's not much that he can do except try and find a way through on Aaron De Battista, a driver that, lest we remind you all, ladies and gentlemen, last week these two came together at the opening corner at Indianapolis, and it's one which cost a penalty for Adrian Manduca, one that Aaron De Battista looks at and smiles at, knowing that he has got a pace advantage out there compared to a lot of others, and it gets close as they head towards Toza, and now for the first time Manduca sits squarely on the back of the McLaren for the race lead.
You'll absolutely be thinking about what happened 7 days ago. You'll not want to recreate that, but where do you go for this move, especially in tricky conditions where, of course, traction is mandatory? You need to be getting out these corners safely and cautiously. It's not going to be down into Acqua Minerale because that's just too narrow, it's too aggressive, and he will absolutely throw his race out of the window if he tried it down there. I think Biratella is a little bit too risky, so the best place to do it will be down into Tamburello. It's really the only obvious overtaking spot, but he needs to be looking behind him as well, because look at that front engine Bentley that will absolutely be blasting down the straight, and it's just closing in and closing in. 0.8 of a second was the gap last sector between the two, and of course that's going to come down. Just watch those numbers flick around, and I'm sure that will oh my goodness, look at that last corner, just completely nothing between them. Move being made now.
Well, this is important because which way is he going to have to go? And the answer is he's going to have to take the road hard travelled at Tamburello. He'll have to go around the outside, but look at this in a straight line as they head towards that section of road. He doesn't have enough to get past Aaron De Battista. 1, 2 and 3, they all hook themselves together, and this is important for Manduca because he'll want to try and put as much pressure on Aaron De Battista as he can, and the more that he does that, the more they slow up, the more they allow Carabot in. He gets right up alongside through the Villeneuve chicane, but never in a position to make that move, and Sheldon Muscat just sits and waits, and now throws it down the inside himself at Toza. Oh, he's took himself straight into the best place possible, and now bang wheels as they head up towards Piratella, your top two in the championship, dicing it out as they head on through in the rain, and there's contact between them which will force off Manduca, and he will hold the place. Wow, it's all starting to kick off now, and this is great for Manduca because it brings Ryan Carabot back.
Absolutely, and of course these two will have the pace to get back onto the rear of that McLaren, and of course Manduca can do the same thing all over again. Just make a darting move, not go for it. Of course, De Battista, oh, he has made a mistake, but so has Muscat in behind. Now, just as I was saying, he will be able to then get Carabot into the battle, I think that can be crucial for the championship. That is what Manduka will have to do. He's got to get his teammate back into the fight and then maybe mix something up. Of course, Project Tabertier will have to do something about that. Carabot is starting to now reel in the Bentley, but there's still a bit of time remaining and they're going to have to drive this very, very intelligently.
They certainly will. It was the case about a lap ago where De Battista was holding back Manduka. I was going to say the point here, Adam, that if Manduka finds himself into the race lead, the one thing I'd do if I was Sheldon Muscat would be pit the car. Don't worry about the time, just pit the car, because then he wouldn't have to be held up in any way, shape or form. Just try and spend as much time as possible away from Adrian Manduka and any other car that can maybe make that effort out there. And as you take a look around at this circuit, it is all very close together with the exception of Chris Gatt, who is back there and only just heading through Tamburello right now. That would be the only car of concern on any run forward. Manduka slashing that gap down now to 0.7 of a second. For Ryan Carabot, he's got 1.7 seconds to try and chase down on Sheldon Muscat at this moment, dropping down the hill towards the river run of Acqua Minerale then, and trying to get the 1, the 2, and then the 3 part of this section of road correct, and then driving back up the hill. That Ferrari, of course, in these wetter conditions, got to remember, is, I would say, a wonderful sleek profile around here and doesn't have necessarily as much of the same weight, you would say, as the Bentley has. The Bentley can create more downforce through its weight, but also means it's a little bit more sluggish, and it comes into play in wetter conditions that Ferrari's a little bit more nimble.
Yeah, of course, this is the beauty of GT3 racing. In so many different ways you can build your car, and of course, then, of course, with the profiling, it will be different at every single circuit you go to. Of course, you'll get the likes of Monza, where it suits the likes of the Bentley, the BMWs, and the Mercedes. But then you get this twisty track, which suits the likes of the McLaren and the Ferrari. Down towards Tamburello. 30 minutes still left on the clock. We've had 15 minutes in this race, and my goodness, we have had an absolutely thriller 15 minutes so far. We're still not yet through half of this race. Manduka will be pushing along, and look at that purple check mark. Fast start of the race for Adrian Manduka. This is going to build his boost his confidence. Remember back when he was struggling at the start of the race? Yeah, me too. He's now just wash that all away and found himself in a little bit of confidence here, right on the back of De Battista. Now it's just not about getting too excited and just reading your hook in toward the rear of that McLaren.
Well, he can only do what he can do, and that is to try and win this race, and that's what he'll be hoping for here today. A way to win, a wiggle from De Battista as he rushed on through down the hill at Piratella. That could have very easily been the car turned around if he wasn't careful. And you've also got to keep an eye on that gap to Ryan Carabot and Sheldon Muscat, because it is flying up now at 2.5 seconds here. Ryan Carabot cannot hold the same pace as these drivers in front, dancing over the chicanes at the curve of Grassini, and now back towards that lovely, lovely run towards the Ravatas. Manduka now can sit. He can either choose to wait to make this move or decide to take a trip down the pit lane. And I think that might be a preferable decision if he wants to make a clean overtake here around this circuit.
Absolutely, I do think that will be an option, but again, you've also got the other option of bringing your teammate into the battle, but again, that falls with the risk of bringing Muscat in as well. There's so many ways this can go, and Manduka really sizing up an opportunity in towards Tamburello, making it very obvious that he's there on the inside. Very good in the braking as well, just dancing the car through the first corner, through the right, through the left as well. And a bit of a wide moment there for De Battista. Is looking very, very nervy for the McLaren, but Manduka is just sitting there and waiting. He's being patient and knows there's an opportunity coming very, very soon.
Trying around the outside of Tozer, looking to try and pick up the run off the exit, but it was almost like a block pass there on the middle of the apex. There was nowhere for him to go. Heavy defence up towards Piratella, and Adrian Manduka realises that he is stuck in a place where he can't quite do very much, and the amount of work that's being done by De Battista to hold, they almost tapped down the hill. My goodness me, they are getting really really close here, and you get that feeling that after what happened last week, there is a point of pride from De Battista to hold him up as much as he can, because Muscat is now within a second.
Absolutely, I think that De Baptiste will be really, really looking for a win here. Of course, he's had his best finish of P2 at Kyle Arm in Indianapolis. He will want to get those 30 points to his name. Of course, he has got a big, big contender to fight off, and a very important contender to fight off. He could be the one to decline Manduka of a championship here, but that Ferrari just looks so strong. Just looks really, really good in the corners. He looks to keep pacing the car in some great sectors here. And I think the rain has, I was going to say stopped, but I think it was just the camera angle there. So I think it maybe eased off a tad, but I don't think that will be... Yeah, you're right about that. I'll move on to that in just a second. But as I was saying, the rain is really just starting to ease off just a tad. So that may be something to take into consideration. Ryan Carabot in. He is trying to make an undercut here. And hopefully for Project Aversio, that could bring him right into the tussle.
Well, this is the right time to do it, especially when Adrian Manduka is fighting tooth and nail to find a way through on Aaron De Baptista's VMD Intercomp Sim Sport car. Not getting what he wants there at Tozer again. And once more, we talk about it. It's a tightrope here around this circuit of Imola, especially through the middle sector. It's a very technical middle sector of the lap, and you have to be committed if you want to make a pass anywhere along here. Sheldon Muscat will creep up onto the back of the Ferrari and the McLaren in front, and with Carabot's stop completed, it's going to be a very interesting tale of how long is it going to take. Again, just taking the natural line then is Adrian Manduka. De Baptista happy with where he's placing the car for the moment, and Sheldon Muscat realises he can't afford to get drawn too much into these games, and that's why I think if he keeps about a 7/10 buffer and doesn't necessarily make those moves, what are they going to do about it? The only thing that he's trying to stave off right now would be Ryan Carabot's undercut, which would indicate that the Bentley should come into the pits this time to cover off what is behind. We'll see whether there's any takers into the lane, and no cover being called.
No, I think that Muscat is a little bit too hyper-focused there on the front too. He just wants us to maintain that gap to these guys in front, because that is his main aim. I think just keeping on tabs with a podium place. Manduka looking to try and maybe put some more pressure on De Baptista. I'm not entirely sure if you were aware of Carabot coming into the pits here, but he is quite the way back, it seems. Look at the number 13 just going into Aqua Minerale. That has been held up in the pits for a horribly a long time. That is unbelievable.
Well, it's a very, very long pit lane here at Imola. You forget that around this Imola circuit, the pit lane was extended to try and be FIA accredited for Formula style racing compared to what you had a little bit earlier on in its lifespan. So when you take a look at this and you take a look at what makes this pit lane difficult, it's a long one. It is a really, really long pit lane. So you will get the chance to see that here, as now Manduka is stuck in Schrodinger's overtake. He has to attack and he has to defend, and Sheldon Muscat's going to get into the mirrors now and start applying his own form of pressure right now, dancing through the curve of Grassini at almost the halfway stage in a race and a championship that, although is very comfortably at the moment in Sheldon Muscat's hands, is by no means out of the question his to be confirmed at this moment, because there are still a lot of variables to unpack.
Yeah, there are so many things to just try and get through into this race. There's so many different ways this race can go. Of course, this gap, you're right, that rain has now stopped, so that could be a bit of a bad point here for Carabos. That's probably why these drivers were continuing. Did they know that the rain was going to ease off, and they're now just waiting for it to get into that onto that dry compound? Look at that, there's no spits whatsoever around the circuit. This is absolutely terrible for the entirety of Project Aversio. Their championship is in absolute jeopardy.
Well, now it's about when's the right time to jump onto a set of dry tyres. They've got that wide pit window, of course, which allows them to go work for it. So expect to see some different lines at the moment to keep the tyres cool, because overheating of the tyres is going to be the most important factor at this stage of the race. So if those tyres get a little bit too hot, they're going to be going in a little bit deep to some of these corners, and Aaron De Battista again is put under the cosh by Adrian Manduca, really charging through a number of these corners, and that nimbleness of the Ferrari comes into play. Will there be a look at Curva Grassini? Though there won't. We've got, of course, John Agius, who's come in to make that stop, and he might have been the driver to say, I'm going to tiptoe out there and hope that it's going to work on a set of slicks. So that might be something worth keeping in mind. There is still spray, though, that's being kicked up, so I'd say we're not quite there yet, but surely there will be a crossover point, and that crossover point might just be when you see the windscreen wipers stop.
Yeah, that's going to be the way it goes, and it looks like it's stopped for both of the Sim Sport cars. So you see that it's off for De Battista, off for Muscat, but Manduca is still wiping away. So I'm not entirely sure if he's maybe just not quite maxed his wipers, or if it's just another reason why, but they're still continuing out there. They don't think it's the right time to go onto a set of slicks. It looks like James Smith is there in the Ferrari #1 car. He's coming to the pits as well to actually go onto a set of slick tyres. This is very much changing up with 20 minutes to go. Only 18 minutes remaining of that pit window.
Just remember, if you go in early, too early, you're going to be at the mercy of not having grip or heat in the tyres, and that's what Sheldon Muscat will be looking at here. He doesn't want to risk this. He'll probably want to go in at the latest available opportunity as he closes up again through Piratella and down the hill. And Ryan Carabot has a drive-through penalty.
That is probably because he's cut the corner at the chicane. Look at where he is on the map. He's just heading through Ravazza, and he's got that a couple of seconds ago. So I think that was the decision being made, going through the chicane. Of course, you have to take it so aggressively. You saw both Sim Sport cars taking that corner very aggressively, and that is why. Look at this. This is Muscat going for a move here. He's going to be on the right-hand side. Is he going to have a whole car length ahead? No, Manduca is going to be later on the brakes, and he's going to now try and find the gap here to try and fly through, but he's not quite got it. Muscat is all over the rear of that Ferrari, and none of them opt to pit. Manduca is not opting to try and get a bail out here. He's just sticking it on the road, and Muscat will now potentially find a way through. He's got the straight line speed. He's in the slipstream as well. Pulls to the right-hand side. Will he go around the outside? He does. That is a move for second place, and it's now Muscat ahead of Manduca.
Well, Manduca's got a pit now. He's got no other alternatives here. If he wants to try and gain this advantage, he knows that he has got to pull that car into the pits and do what he can. Daryl Martinelli, by the way, has the fastest lap of the race in the 296 McLaren. He has been really pushing about, and on that last lap, a 45.9. So if he can continue in a vein like this, in the way that he's driving, could he maybe in the second half of this race pull himself into some form of contention?
It will be. It's a massive question mark for now. Of course, Daryl Martinelli has never been a driver to be up there in the top half of the results. He has put himself in a decent result. I'm not entirely sure where he's got that fastest lap from. That 296 Ferrari really working away, and I think he's actually gaining there. Watch that gap, 6 seconds to Adrian Manduca, but we all know Manduca is having a big old struggle session. Have the tyres overheated on that Ferrari? I think so here, Jake.
I think they have, and I think this is really telling. The 3 seconds that he finds himself behind now at this moment, I think he's not been looking after them the same way that these two have, and Sheldon Muscat is getting better and better in these conditions, and look how far back Adrian Manduca is by comparison. Surely he'll dive in. He will. He has to. He's got no choice. He needs slick tyres, and he needs to go and attack, but this is going to surely bring the dominoes into full proceedings then for these two drivers, De Battista and Muscat. They are in A and A1 positions right now for what they've wanted to do in this race, and they realise now that it's nothing silly and it will be Sheldon Muscat's title.
It will be, and I think that Muscat has really, really had to work for this one. He was 1 point sitting in fourth with his teammate challenging for the lead, but wow, it has really gone a table topped up. Now he's just got to try and just stick it on the road. I think he will make a pit stop at one stage, but it's just a question of where. I'm still looking at Daryl Martinelli, that gap at 9.5 seconds. And they're about to now dive down the hill towards that second split. Or should I say, yes, I should say that second split. See if that gap is going to dive down anymore. So as I said, 9.5 seconds. Here comes Martinelli to now cross, and it's down to 9.1. So gain about 4/10 through that middle sector. This is starting to get a little bit interesting with Martinelli potentially in for a good top 5 finish here.
He'd be very happy with that, with a season that has been a little bit difficult for him, but he's coming good right at the very end. There is Ryan Carabot. He has, I believe, served his drive-through penalty and finds himself now in 9th place, a full 20 seconds behind Jamie Smith. They're in that 8th position overall. So it's been a horrible race for him. He looked like he had pace in qualifying and then looked to drop back, and in come both of the VMD Intercomp SimSport cars, and no shocks there. They will both take the drive into the lane. By comparison, car 93 is down at the Tozer corner and is looking to really charge, but the amount of time that he lost there by being a little bit late into the pit, is that now going to be too much to pull back on these two drivers as De Battista takes service? So too now Sheldon Muscat, so too Martinelli, and that will be everybody in the field pitting. And there is Manduka trying to find some confidence in what will be a very undergripped circuit now, heading up the hill towards the Curva Grassini.
Just having a look here on the track map here, Jake, to see if anyone starts moving. It should be that number 26 of Aaron De Baptiste to get started first, but they're still just sitting there. And as you said, a long pit lane here. Could Manduka find himself in the midst of this battle here? Still, they're just moving, they're trudging their way toward that pit limiter line as he heads his way now round the second part of Piratella. I don't think he's going to get out ahead of these two drivers. They're now starting to approach this pit line, and they're now starting to accelerate, both of them. There they are in symphony, whatever you say it, but in towards Tarambarella they go, and they're both now 1 and 2 now with Manduka in there in P3 for now.
Yeah, they were in lockstep, the two, De Battista and Muscat in second position. De Battista still holding that race lead. Manduka's tyres going off the way they did, I think really does showcase there how much time he's lost, because he's gained nothing in the pit stop there. 3 seconds, not much he could do. Martinelli back out and away, and he's in 6th position. So it's Angelo Agius now in 4th and Samuel Mifsud now in 5th. A slow stop for Martinelli. He's dropped back, I would say, about 5 extra seconds than where he was. He could have come out there right with the group that he was with, but ultimately a slow pit stop means that Agius and Mifsud have found their way through. There is Sheldon Muscat in 2nd position, 4 race wins this season, and behind his teammate in the Intercomp BMD SimSport car. So for Sheldon Muscat, it is smiles all round, because he knows that the only person that can stop him from winning a title right now is the car behind him, and all he needs to do is say, even if he catches him, I'll let you go, because he has got effectively 13 to 14 seconds worth of leeway to win this title.
He does as well, and I think he's just got to keep this on the road. Unless the weather wants to make one final change, well, I think that it is going to go in the way of Sheldon Muscat. Of course, he's been really on the ropes at one stage in this race, but he's managed to calmly fight his way back up into this into the spots of P2. Just behind his Intercomp BMD SimSport teammate Aaron De Baptiste. De Baptiste been controlling this race, and I think he's going to hopefully, for his sake, have a well-deserved win that he's felt like taken of last time out to Indianapolis.
Yeah. So he'll feel like after Indianapolis, that was the game changer. It's made life here a lot easier for what he was looking at. It could have been a straight up, whoever finishes ahead of the other wins scenario. But here today, it is a case of Muscat had the odds ever in his favour. And with 12.5 minutes, he has got that where he wants. He sits very close to his teammate Aaron De Battista here at 0.6 of a second, now half a second down the hill at Aqua Minerale, and he might just decide that he wants all of it, and Denzel Agius is in the pits for a second time. So would that be because he's on the wrong tyre?
No, he's had an error down at the Villeneuve chicane. I saw a yellow flag on the top of your screen, and looked down at the map, and there was a yellow car, and it was Denzel Agius. So he's had a mistake there at Villeneuve. It's got a tow back to the pit. So I'm not sure if he's going to continue in this race. We'll keep an eye, but I think that is his way to say, I'm done, I'm out of this race, unfortunately, there for Denzel Agius. Not the way he wants the season to end.
No, it'll be a real shame to see him if he does not get back out and racing again. He will now fall a lap down, and we'll see whether he has that chance or whether it is game over for car number 89. It will promote Ryan Carable up into 8th position, who will now effectively just have to cruise the car home against car number 1, of course, of Jamie Smith. There's not much he can do to chase that gap down on what has been a tough day for him, but there are still battles on, for example, for 4th, for 5th, and for 6th. Keep in mind that Martinelli got really nicely into a run. There is John Agius in 4th position, and it's Samuel Mifsud who's there behind him. It's going to be Mustang versus Ferrari out there between 4th and 5th, and I tell you what, Samuel Mifsud would love those extra points in the back pocket.
Absolutely, of course, he's had a best finish of 5th during this season, but John Agius, I believe, has had a best finish of 4th. So it is more to gain here for Samuel Mifsud, and that is going to end in a result of his best point finish and best finish of this season. It's never been more of a. You never see him in the top 5 apart from maybe one time, but yeah, Samuel Mifsud has been pushing away in that Ferrari, and I think he is in the right car. He's on the right tire. Does he have the right mindset to go after that Ford Mustang? He's now going to look around the outside here, potentially at the chicane. They're just going to side by side, but the Ford just has it there. And it looks like Mifsud's going to have to back out of that one. Daniel Martinelli also gaining in this one. So it could be Ford versus Ferrari versus Ferrari. That's a very nice title there.
Is a very nice title, and Samuel Mifsud then in the Fox Sprint Racing Ferrari is hoping that he can find a little bit more out there, and he'll get a very nice run then coming out of the final corner. Will he get that opportunity then to start scrambling on through and getting what he wants? You can see the dry line that's formed out there on the circuit, and then for the race lead, they now go nose to tail. So Aaron De Battista and Sheldon Muscat, they were roles reversed, of course, from 1 week ago, where, of course, Muscat took the win by a couple tenths over Aaron De Battista. It feels like that's the way it sits at this moment in time. Sheldon is very much a racing driver. He would love to win a race like this, but how much do you feel he's getting bottled up behind his own teammate? That gap is now 2 seconds, and if Manduka gets into the mix, there is always going to be risk, and he wants a risk-free race between now and the end, which I think, if Aaron is holding him up, Sheldon might be getting a little bit agitated then to go, you know what, I'd quite like to get through and eliminate any opportunity for incident to occur by leading the race.
Yeah, I think that Muscat would love to be leading this race, but of course Aaron De Battista will be very much a stern driver. He will stand firm at his post and try and keep this position, this position he's been waiting all season for, and I think that he's been in many positions where he could have had a win this season, but it's just come at some difficult ways, and unfortunately one of them was last week, in fact. But you can tell the pace is there for Aaron De Battista. 3 pole positions this season, including this one at Imola, and of course many win potential, but it's just hasn't quite matched the speed. But I think if we go into a second season with De Battista on the grid, well, he could definitely hold up a championship battle. What about Muscat heading through this Tamburello section? Still half a second in it.
Yeah, and now Adrian Manduka has pulled half a second back to 1.4, loses a couple tenths of a second then to 1.6, and just scrambling over the curb using all of the road is Sheldon Muscat as he heads his way into Tozer hairpin and then up the hill, once again taking that almighty climb back up this wonderful circuit here in at the heart of Italy. It's about 80 kilometers away from the home of San Marino, of course, the nation which has done so well in the football recently and is 2 wins away from the World Cup. But there goes Martinelli, and contact between the Ferraris, and I think Samuel Mifsud's going to retain the place there, and Martinelli's just going to sit behind. That could have been disaster in a heartbeat, but ultimately they hold it together and are still not a million miles away from the Ford.
I think that Martinelli got a little bit too excited there. Whoop, almost got a little bit excited there as well. But I think he just wanted to have a look at the move there for 5th place. Unfortunately, just went into the side of his manufacturer teammate. There is Agius. John Agius is feeling very confident there at the wheel. He's been really putting that car in some really good positions here. And of course, on a pretty narrow circuit for a GT3, it is pretty difficult to overtake. But I think Samuel Mifflin is really looking at this now. Dennis Piratelli wants to go for that outside, but he's a little bit unsure if the grip is there on the inside, and of course doesn't want to risk flying off the circuit. So have a look now through that penultimate, through that final corner onto the main straight. It should be the legs of the Ford Mustang that should have this, but look at that dart to the left hand side for the Ferrari. Wow.
Yeah, he's got to be careful there as he goes over the wet parts of the circuit. He could very easily lose the tyres, and again he'll search to the outside, hoping to find that some very, very decisive moves being done. And John Agius now will have to defend here on that outside turn. Inside door firmly shut down, and then you've got to think that Daryl Martinelli's on the scene and he doesn't want to trip over like he did a lap ago or so. So now they'll start dancing about here through the Villeneuve chicane and over towards Tozer once more. It's a case of you're going to have to be patient if you want to get what you need. John Agius is very much holding the blocking cards open. Watch out over the top of the hill. He defends over to the inside, which puts Samuel Mifsud on the outside looking for the run here at the very difficult Piratella to pass, and he's trying to go around the outside. He'll put a couple tyres off the road. He'll get the inside now for Aqua Minerale if he's brave, and he throws the car down in on that inside line. There's a tiny bit of contact there, but look at that. One Ferrari goes through. Will a second follow in suit? The answer is yes.
That was a big move there from Samuel Mifsud. Got all the elbows and hip on that Ford Mustang down into Aqua Minerale. I think it's just one of those moves where you don't want to make, but you're in a position where you've just got to go for it. It's a very awkward situation because of course you never want to intend that move, but you're there anyway. You might as well go for it, otherwise you're just going to have to chicken out and potentially lose the place to your manufacturer teammate. But he's made it work. He's a hero for now, and Samuel Mifsud is on for a 4th place. He's just got to keep on track for another 4 minutes. Meanwhile, De Baptista still leading the way by 7/10 of a second. A win is potentially on the card for the number 26 McLaren on his way to potential victory, but he's just got to hold it on the circuit.
Oh, there's traffic though, and there's a lot of it that they're going to have to deal with at the front of the field right now. And there's also the return to the circuit, Denzel Agius, who is 5 laps down. There is Sheldon Muscat. That is the traffic in front of them, and that is Chris Gatt. And remember, it's responsibility of passing cars in GT racing to get by. Gatt pulls it off the side of the road, wants nothing to do with these drivers at the front of the field, and realises that it's a little bit bigger than him out there at the moment. It looks like it's going to be 2 laps to go when they cross the line, and for Sheldon Muscat, he will know that he is 2 laps away from a title as things stand. This moment, he has got himself a gap of 5 extra points. He walked into today with a 13-point championship lead. He is 18 points clear as things stands in the championship. He'll feel very happy about that. but he will also want to try and win this race if he can, as he shadows De Battista.
Absolutely, there's going to be very much on the back of each other here. Muscat really just pulling all the strings here. He was looking to go to the inside there, but ducked underneath the rear wing of the McLaren. Well, I say underneath the rear wing. Look at the size of the Bentley. It barely fits underneath the rear wing. It's almost toppled the McLaren as they head their way through this first section of first couple of corners. And then we've got Villeneuve, and of course, still trying to see if he can get anything out of it. Manduca's still there in behind, but of course, he's very much let that gap go. That was at 1.6 a couple of minutes ago. But of course, he's pulled right back to over 2 seconds. I think it must feel so demoralizing if you're Adrian Manduca. You've come this far to potentially fight for a championship, but a couple of mistakes and things just not going your way in tonight's race, and that's where you currently sit third, championship contender just ahead of you, looking for championship gold.
Well, the question, Adam, is very much this. For Adrian Manduca, he knows he's got close, he knows he's had the wins here over the course of this season, but for him, how much has it been, those small drops that have seemed seismic by comparison over the last 2 weeks, that have pretty much turned a championship from being close to the gap that we've got right now?
Well, it has been very, very difficult over the course of the season. He's been up against a big challenge in Sheldon Muscat, who we know is so good in a GT3 car. As you see him flashing his lights there, trying to gain on De Battista as they head on towards this final lap of this race. But but Manduca just going over with the fastest lap of the race, just trying to put a mark down for potentially next season. If we do see both these drivers, or all three of these drivers on the grid, we can expect a huge fight for a championship battle. And maybe it may be that De Battista can put his nose in and win a few more races. There are many markers being laid down ahead of potentially next season's Malta GT3 championship.
Yeah.
And I'm very, of course, we need to be continuing with this fight as Muscat is on towards a championship victory, but he's only still a couple of miles away.
He's only got half a lap to navigate over the top of Piratella and back down the hill towards Acqua Minerale. He has driven, simply put, well within his means today. He hasn't gone above and beyond, as off the road goes Aaron De Battista there through Acqua Minerale and up the hill towards Curva Grassini. The lights are gone in terms of this race because we are down to 0 seconds. There is no time remaining on this clock. For Adrian Manduca, he has thrown the world at it. He pulled that gap right back to within an inch of Sheldon Muscat, who has been playing roughshod with this championship over the course of the ACER Malta GT3 Championship. But as he exits Ravazza for the final time here today, he will see the breadth of his domain and he will weep, for there are no more worlds left to conquer. Aaron De Battista wins the race. Sheldon Muscat is your ACER Malta GT3 champion here of 2024.
And it's a well-deserved champion in Sheldon Muscat. You could just have to look at the amount of wins he has had. It has been an unbelievable season. He has never failed to be off the podium. And of course, 4 wins to take this season. Wow. Take a bow, Sheldon Muscat. You have been at another level above everybody else, but you've got to give credit as well to the drivers around you. There is your SimSport teammate Aaron De Battista, a potential driver who could go on for a championship fight next season. Of course, Adrian Manduca put his all into this season. I believe his rookie season as well in the GT3 Championship, but it just wasn't meant to be.
It was a wonderful fight over the course of what was 10 weeks worth of battling, 8 races in those 10 weeks, and simply put, you sit down, you look at it on paper, and it was a wonderful showcase of clutch driving in a championship where you need it the most. Sheldon Muscat, when he puts the chips down, he did exactly what he needed to do, and he did not buckle. He became a diamond. And Adam, when it comes down to a championship like this, when those points are being whittled away, sometimes you get drivers who wither away from the fight. Sheldon always had that desperate resolve to keep himself in, and I think it happened from Suzuka qualifying. Yes, he didn't get the race result he wanted, but Suzuka qualifying, I think, was the first sign that Sheldon's going to go fighting all the way with this championship, and that's what we saw.
Absolutely. You could tell he was a fighter, and he never gives up. And I think it's just been the consistent results. All you need to do is just have a look over the course of the season where he's finished. As I say, he's never been off the podium. He's every single time he's been on that roster, and that's what you need. I think Adrian Manduka will be looking back at that Monza round where, of course, he got spun round and only got to finish 4th place for his efforts. Of course, that was a bit of a demoralizing result for him, but I'm sure he'll be able to come back, and I'm sure the mindsets will be reset when we go for round 1 next season, and I think that'll be one to really look out for. Of course, there's so much potential in this Malta GT3 Championship with more cars, more drivers, and I think we could get a really nice grid next season.
I think we certainly could as well. Of course, this has been a wonderful ACER Malta GT3 Championship, which has been a Velocity Esports Racing production. This has been brought to you by Gaming Malta in collaboration with Hyundai, Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and JACAP. From Adam Reed and myself, Jake Sperry, there was always going to be a case of a miracle needing to be found. It very nearly materialized after 15 minutes worth of racing when Adrian Manduka threw what he could at the wall, hoped that it would stick, but ultimately his teammates were nowhere to help him here today. He had to do it pretty much on his own. He realized that the scale of the mountain he had to climb was a little bit too much here, and ultimately for Sheldon Muscat, he fended off all that he needed to do. In a season of 4 wins for him, he will take the ACER Malta GT3 Championship crown. He is your champion for 2024, and well, may he defend as much as he has battled. We will see you very soon with the next Velocity Esports Racing production. So long from us for now, and we will see you very soon.